Welcome to the Ask Schellie show. Gotta get rid of all that red lipstick. Hello, you are tuning into the Ask Schellie show. My name is Schellie Fanfan, CEO and owner of Ask Schellie Consulting, where we specialize in providing support to couples, married couples, exclusive partnerships as well, providing the support of marriage counseling and intimacy coaching. Welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am your host for today. And man, do we have a good show for you. We have someone that wrote in and wants to know, is there anything wrong with fantasizing? So we need your input. Make sure that you go into the comment section. Let us know who you are and where you are tuning in from. Be sure to engage. You can share your feedback right in the comment section. And in case you have forgotten, your feedback is extremely valuable. Our listeners, the people who write in, they catch the replay, they tune in live, and they take heed to what you have to say in the comment section. And what you have to say, your input, has high value all the time. People who write in will email and say how helpful these segments are. And guess what? It has very little to do with me and so much to do with each and every one of you. So thank you for tuning in to the Ask Schellie show, where we entertain people's most difficult questions about their lives, about their relationships, about their mental health, their wellness, their careers. We highlight these questions right here on the Ask Schellie show. We provide feedback for entertainment and informational purposes only. For those of you who need therapy or think you need some type of therapy, you can connect with us at www.askschellie.com. You can also email us directly at info@askschellie.com. We are here to be a resource to you. Now, the question that we are highlighting this week, and boy, there are many. So for those of you who reached out and asked, I hope everything is okay. We love the replays that you have been streaming and great. And I love the concern too, because that made me feel so loved. And yes, I'm absolutely okay. And I'm more than okay because I did what was needed to tap into my mental wellness. My emotional health cannot pour from an empty cup. And let me tell you, it's full. Been to St. Thomas and Antigua, multiple trips to New York, connected with family in a new way, kind of just put my 2022 in vision and set some really tangible and measurable goals. So let me tell you something. Your emotional intelligence expert is at a full-blown 10. And thank you so much for your feedback. All of you who are tuning in, a woman writes in, wants to know if fantasizing is okay. She says that the only way that she could be intimate with her husband is through fantasizing. So I need your feedback. I'll be sharing that question in just a second. For those of you who are tuning in, make sure that you click share. This is a powerhouse resource for couples and just individuals who want to maximize their emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is a superpower. It is a superpower. That means that we have power. We have the capacity to influence outcomes in the earth when we have maximized our own emotional wellness and the intelligence that's required in order to do so. And this show sets out to add tools to the wellness toolboxes of all those who watch it, whether live or catching on the replay. So be sure to click share. Go into the comment section. Let me know who you are and where you are tuning in from. Is fantasizing wrong? What are your thoughts? Is fantasizing wrong? And we're going to highlight the question from our writer in just a second. Hello, Colleen. She says self-care trips. Yes. They were self-care trips. We all need them. Even if you are not able to leave the country or leave the state, you can stay in a hotel. You can go on a beach for a full day and the wee hours of the morning come back late hours at night. There's so many affordable ways for you to tap into your wellness and just be in a space and place where there is very little to limited demand on your time and energy. I have people that go on vacation, they come back and they're like, it really wasn't a vacation. I was changing diapers, I was running after teenagers the whole entire trip. We hiked, we did this and that excursion. No. True wellness, when you're really tapping into rejuvenating and replenishing and recalibrating, right? Rejuvenating yourself and replenishing and recalibrating, it requires a space and place over a prolonged period of time where there is little to no demand on your time and energy. What is that for you? For many of us, a family trip doesn't give us that. So what does that for you? How do you replenish? How do you recalibrate? Because let me tell you, I am on fire. I had a 2-hour session with my coach on last night, Dr. Loren Joseph, and I am on fire, full of vision. I'm vomiting it out even as I speak. I am so full. Who are you accountable to? Who pours into you? Who do you allow yourself to be completely vulnerable in front of? I had some tissue last night when I met with her, and I feel great. And so you have a new version of your emotional intelligence expert on today. Be sure to go into the comment section. Let me know who you are, where you are tuning in from. Hello again, Colleen from Orlando by way of Brooklyn. That is another one of my mentors. I love you. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to get into the question right now. And when you're hearing the question, I want you to take notes, write your observations. What are those initial thoughts that come to mind? Make sure that you write them in the comment section. We subscribe to the fact that each one teaches one. So your feedback is super, super valuable and super important. Okay. Are we ready for the question? Make sure, again, you go into the comment section, share your thoughts, and here we go. And the question of the week reads as follows. By the way, we have many questions that we need to catch up on. So what I'm going to do, I think I may do it sometime. Well, what I have, maybe one more Tuesday this month. But in one of these upcoming Tuesdays, I'm just going to do a marathon of questions within the hour, providing very brief feedback to make sure that the people who are written in, that they get their due responses. Okay. And so if you are not hearing your question, be certain that it will happen soon. Dear Ask Schellie, I am unable to be intimate with my husband unless I fantasize about other things to stay aroused. Let me repeat that. Dear Ask Schellie, I am unable to be intimate with my husband unless I fantasize about other things to stay aroused. We added something new. So what we do now, if we think that we need more information to make this worth all of our time, and to also make sure that it is valuable and that the feedback that we provide is as valuable as possible, is we ask within a person's comfort level to provide more details. So we responded, can you please elaborate on what you are fantasizing about in order for our listeners to provide you more accurate feedback? And she replied, drum roll please, the following. I have a few scenarios that I fantasize about. Take notes. You got to listen to this because you guys think like me. I don't know how many times your feedback just takes the notes that I have to share and the things that I have kind of conceptualized, like right out of my brain and right out of my mouth. I know that we are one accord. Listen to what she says. I have a few scenarios that I fantasize about. My main default is I am in my office working late and younger male employees come into my office and pleasure me under my command. The rest I feel embarrassed to type. Another scenario is being held captive by a man of power, like a king or master. And in the midst of our sexual experience, I become the one in control and he must follow my commands. The last one I will share is being like an executive producer on a set. I am instructing the actors on what to do, and I become like the highlighted character, even though I am the director as well. I need to say that in these dreams, I am not really focusing on how the men look or anything. So I am not fantasizing about past lovers or my cable guy. Like, I would not be able to even describe how these men look. I love my husband and would never cheat. I may not or or I may not ever enjoy those scenarios in real life, but in my head, it keeps me aroused in order to meet my husband's sexual needs. I do not talk to him about these fantasies as I would never want him to think he does not please me. I would love to hear your feedback. Is fantasizing a bad thing? Woo, 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 woo. I'm sure there are many individuals in marriages that have these same questions. And that's what I love about this time, where we have an opportunity to kind of process the questions that come in, because don't think that nobody else has been through what you are experiencing. And I don't know, listen, countless times where people will say, you know what, the one thing that I got out of the feedback from your listeners is that I am not alone. The enemy has this amazing way of causing us to believe that no one else understands us, that no one else has the experiences that we have. And the devil is a whole lie. So go ahead and go into the comment section. Let me know what you think. What is your feedback? I am going to read the question one more time. If there's any feedback here, I'll be happy to share. And then we're going to go into the feedback of your emotional intelligence expert. So in repetition, dear Ask Schellie, I am unable to be intimate with my husband unless I fantasize about other things to stay aroused. We asked, can you please elaborate on what you are fantasizing about in order for our listeners to provide you more accurate feedback? She replied, I have a few scenarios that I fantasize about. My main default is I am in my office working late and younger male employees come into my office and pleasure me under my command. The rest I feel embarrassed to type. Another scenario is being held captive by a man of power, like a king or master. And in the midst of our sexual experience, I become the one in control, and he must follow my commands. The last one I will share is being like an executive producer on a set. I am instructing the actors on what to do, and I become like the highlighted character, even though I am the director as well. Yeah? Active listening is super powerful. Some of you have to learn to stop talking so much, because listening is also a superpower. I need to say, she continues, that in these dreams, I am not really focusing on how the men look or anything. So when I'm pausing, that means it's something to really think about. I'm not really focusing on how the men look or anything. So I am not fantasizing about past lovers or my cable guy. Like, I would not be able to even describe how these men look. I love my husband and would never cheat. I may not ever enjoy those scenarios in real life, but in my head, it keeps me aroused in order to meet my husband's sexual needs. I do not talk to him about these fantasies as I would never want him to think he does not please me. I would love to hear your feedback. Is fantasizing a bad thing? That is the question of the afternoon. So those of you who are tuning in on your lunch break, go ahead and put the ketchup on the burger, wipe your fingertips, and get to typing. What are your thoughts? Share your thoughts, provide your feedback. You are tuning in to the Ask Schellie Show, and we are responding to a question from a person who is saying, I have to fantasize in order to stay aroused when I'm having intimate moments with my husband. Is this a bad thing? And so I'd love to hear what you have to say, and I will definitely be sharing my feedback as well. And CEO Chick Colleen says, I don't know what to say to this, gonna stay in my lane. The only thing that comes to mind is, does she need to take the lead more on her on her intimate moments with spouse? Should she share what she wants to see happen with her spouse? Good question. And some of the times We may not have any other feedback, but more questions for the person to ask themselves. Because when we have an opportunity to ask ourselves certain questions, we can be introspective and we can maximize our self-awareness, because it makes us think like, I never thought about that. Thank you so much, CEO Chick Colleen, who is the founder of the CEO Chicks. We have this amazing mastermind that's going on November 5th through the 7th. Be sure to visit with us at www.ceochicksonline.com. All right, so here we go. Again, make sure that you are going into the comment section to let us know, let the listener know, let the writer know what your feedback is. So I want to talk about fantasizing just in general. I'm going to share some main 3 points, and then we're going to go truly specific as to what she is asking. So the first point that I want to talk about is that research does show that people with more satisfying sex lives report more frequent sexual fantasies that reflect the type of sexual experiences that they have. Now, this is contrary to the Sigmund Freud. And those of you who took Psychology 101 back in college know the name Sigmund Freud. And his perspective was a happy person never fantasizes, only an unhappy one. What are your thoughts about that? This is Sigmund Freud, whose perspective is happy people don't fantasize, only unhappy ones, right? But again, research shows just the opposite, that people with more satisfying sex lives report more frequency in engaging in their sexual fantasies, in their head, of course. The next point for you to ponder, to add to your toolbox as we process this question, is that people who are not satisfied with their sexual and relational lives are more likely to fantasize about alternative partners, right? So now we are kind of classifying the fantasy here. So those who are fantasizing about other partners are those who tend to have higher levels of dissatisfaction in their relationships. The next point for you to ponder: following relationship threat, people create fantasies in which they try to mend the threatened relationship and heal their wounded ego, right? So through healing their wounded ego, a vehicle for addressing any type of ego injury is fantasy. What I often find, right, and this is in my experience, as an intimacy coach, as a licensed psychotherapist, working with married couples, most of the time kingdom married couples, and exclusively dating partners that have a date in which they are going to be married, what I often find is that people who come for intimacy coaching, most of the time it's married couples. I try to be very careful with what I do with premarital intervention because I don't want to go to hell. But most of the time, what I find in married couples is that people who are coming in for intimacy coaching do so in an attempt to try to compensate for frustrating aspects. I'm talking about fantasizing, right? So for those people who generally come in for intimacy coaching, they are engaging in fantasy in an attempt to try to compensate for the frustrating aspects of their sexual experience. That's not to say that that's the only reason, right? Because fantasizing is a normal part of generally healthy experiences, right? And I'm talking about healthy sexual experiences. So people, again, that have happy sexual experiences, that have gratifying sexual experiences, also engage in fantasizing as well. But in my experience, as an intimacy coach, those who come to Ask Schellie Consulting to find breakthrough, achieve breakthrough, to maximize their sexual experiences, to maximize their intimate experience, they do so in an attempt to try to compensate for the frustrating aspects of their sexual experiences. So let us now dig. She is stating, right? Remember at the beginning, we took our little pauses. We took our pauses in the areas that I want you to really think about, what I wanted you to think about and comment on. And one of the things is that she needs to fantasize in order to be intimate, right? So we know that fantasizing can be a normal experience, even for someone who reports healthy and gratifying sexual experiences. However, in this particular case, let's highlight the fact that she said that she has to fantasize in order to be intimate. She is fantasizing in order to engage. This means that without it, one can only assume that she is unable to engage. So the question is, right, or the questions are, if I had the opportunity to coach this woman and her husband, I would want to know, how long has it been since you have been compensating in this way? What was the trigger for the change? Sometimes it could be emotional injury, not all the time. But what was the trigger for the change? And what is your intimacy like in the sex zones? And so, students who are tuning in, what are the sex zones? We talked about cold zone, warm zone, and hot zone. Most of the time, people want maximized experiences in the hot zone. But if you don't maximize the work and all that you have to do intentionally in the cold and warm zones, you will always suffer, or you will most of the time and often suffer in the hot zone. So the cold zone, just to simplify it a little bit, and this comes from my curriculum, the Sweet 16. This is a curriculum that I wrote that kind of navigates couples through their sexual and intimate challenges. And so the cold zone, to be general again, is kind of like those day-to-day operations that reflect that you honor your union with your spouse, right? So that's like your morning routines, your day-to-day routines, your evening routines, what your schedule is like, your date night, how you guys navigate through gender roles, and how complementary are those roles? How are you prioritizing the other? Like where are you putting into your schedule the times where you guys are conversing, right? With very little demand on your time and energy, connecting in that way. What are you doing outside of your parenting roles? What are you doing outside of those parental roles? What are you doing outside of your career roles? What are you doing outside of your community roles to strengthen that union? These are kind of all things that happen in the cold zone. And then we have the warm zone, right? How often are you engaging in quality time? And quality is defined as what? 3 forms of contact happening at once. That's eye, verbal, and skin. And how intentional are couples in doing that? When do you guys laugh with one another? When do you have conversations of care? This is the warm zone. Conversations of care. You're not talking about the bills. You're not talking about anything else, but do you feel fulfilled? Are you in purpose? Are you happy? Right? You're just getting down deep into the emotional aspect of your being with your spouse. We call these conversations of care. How often and to what degree are you flirting, sending each other pictures and talking about sexual experiences and sexual desires without engaging? This is all things that happen in the warm zone. And then of course there is the hot zone. This is the degree to which you are very clear and aware about what the needs of your partner are, their desires, and looking at the 5 senses to really define that. So what does your spouse need to hear to have a maximized sexual experience? What do they need to see, smell, taste, feel, right? And really going into these five different sensual experiences and talking about needs and desires, talking about that middle ground, that culture that you have created in your bedroom space. How well have you guys maximized your connections and tapping into those different sex zones? Is my first set of questions. The next thing that I want to tap into are her fantasies are very rooted in power and control. Did you guys get that? Her fantasies are very rooted in power and control. I was wondering if you guys were able to pick up on that, right? Let me go to what you guys have to say. What do you have to say? So Colleen says, what's up with younger men? Okay. So I thought about that too. I think it connects with what I'm about to say about power and control. Sandy Chambers Collins, hello, my love. She is tuning in from Orlando by way of England and Jamaica. She says, I think fantasies are normal, but if you have to do it every time, can be dangerous and going down a slippery slope. She also says, hi, everybody. I'm hiding behind the comment. I believe your spouse should turn you on, and it depends on the fantasy. If it's about other partners, then you are in trouble. So as a man thinks, so he is. So if she does it all the time, then my question is, in her mind, is she cheating? Is she cheating her spouse out of the experience to be truly one with him? Will this lead her to want to be with someone else? It could lead indefinitely if the wrong situation presents itself and she feels a spark with someone that she has not felt with him. That is so good. Thank you so much for tuning in, Sandy. And I hope this is all powerful and helpful to the woman who has written in for help. Now, listen, this is what I was thinking. Sandy and Colleen and those who are tuning in, her fantasies are very rooted in power and control. And I wonder if the fact that these men were younger is also a part of that because she's in this kind of boss position, then she has this control over a younger man. Maybe in her mind, younger men are more gullible and she can have more control over a younger man. Is a younger man the direct opposite of her husband? And we're looking at other dynamics or voids that are being filled with this dynamic. I don't know. Like in the examples that she shared, she is in control. In the examples that she shared, she is dominating. In those examples that she shared in her question, she is in command. She is running the show. It is about pleasing her, and the other characters are all there to please her under her direction. It is interesting that she says, do you remember when she said, let me go back to her question. She says, I cannot even tell you how these men look, right? And then she says something about, it's not about that. It is not about that because it's about control, right? And there may be fantasies where it is about that these men are tall and they look like they're Hawaiian and they have oily, I don't know what people fantasize about. But in this particular case, the reason why you can't even recall how these men look in the dreams is because it's really not about that, right? It is about you in control. So my questions here are you lacking control in the bedroom? Is it not about you? Is your husband not making it about you? Do you have a voice in the bedroom? How are you using that voice? And if you are not using your voice, then again, the big question is why? Why? What is suppressing your verbal power? Verbal power. This is why there's so much power in assertive communication. And we have to learn how to assertively communicate and effectively communicate in that assertiveness. So what is suppressing your verbal power? Is it something that is in the dynamics of your marriage, or is it something that is within you? Marriage counseling and intimacy coaching helps to answer those types of questions. It does help with creating a roadmap to overcome those discovered challenges as well. So your question is, and again, these are just questions for you to answer, right? To kind of engage in some activities of introspection, because most of the time the answers that we are seeking are on the inside of us. And we have to make sure that we're asking the right questions, or we're aligning ourselves with people that can ask the right questions to ignite the self-awareness that is already there. So your question was, is fantasizing a bad thing? And my general answer to that is no. However, in this particular case, there are red flags that may be exposing unhealthy dynamics of your marriage. And notice I did not isolate and say that this may be exposing unhealthy dynamics of your sex life. And that was very purposeful. Intimacy or issues with intimacy, such as communication, vulnerability, transparency, closeness, attachments, bonding, being tightly knit on one accord, honesty, being in purpose together, right? My husband and I, our union answers this world problem, right? I can't help to stress that enough. That's all part of the intimate experience. Being able to truly understand that, expose that, walk in that. Purposeful bonding. Those things are usually the root cause of many issues, right? I'm talking about intimacy. Those types of things are usually the root cause of many issues experienced within the marriage. So you're coming in, there's no self-discipline, we're not engaging, we argue a lot, we're not on the same page most of the time. It is rooted in issues with intimacy. So problems with sexual gratification are almost always tied to problems with intentional intimacy within the marital unit. So make the investment and get the help that you need, and get the help that your husband needs to experience heightened pleasure in your intimate spaces. I would love, love, love to help you guys as well. I have this survey that I send out to individuals and those who are seeking some counsel and seeking some support. And I would love to share that with you. So if there is anybody within the sound of my voice that wants to take that survey with their spouse, all you have to do is connect with me on www.askschellie.com. You can also email me at info@askschellie.com, and I will send you that survey ASAP. It exposes the strengths of your intimacy, and the survey will also expose the weaknesses and growth potential in your intimacy as well. So when you score that with your partner and you're noticing that you're scoring in the red flag zone or in the yellow zone, which is just the caution zone, right? So we have a green zone, which is, ooh, you guys are doing good. You guys are in full throttle mode. Continue to go forward in green zone. We also have yellow zone where it's like, caution, slow down. There are some things that we need to focus on, some things that need to stop, some things that need to start, some things that need to increase, some things that need to decrease. And some of us may end up in red zone. And when you are in red zone, that means like there are things that just need to be renewed, possibly restored. Some of us always, you're praying for restoration. You don't want to revive that thing. It was unhealthy at the beginning. So be careful what you pray for. Some of us don't need to be praying for restoration, but a renewal and a refreshing. Hallelujah, right? And so that is what this survey does. So if you are within the sound of my voice, or you know someone that is in trouble, make sure they reach out. That's www.askschellie.com. You can message us there requesting the survey, or you can email directly info@askschellie.com. That survey will cause you and your spouse to learn where you land: green zone, yellow zone, or red zone. And the questions are great. Like, how long are you guys on average engaging in eye contact? Most of the time, that question is like 0 minutes, right? Or maybe 5 seconds, but it really does help. And so your follow-up action, the things that you need to do to tell the atmosphere that you are ready to be proactive when it comes to maximizing the happiness in your marriage, is to reach out. www.askschellie.com, info@askschellie.com, and we will send you that survey. I love, love, love working with my couples. I love to see the light bulb go off. I love the testimonies that come after, especially those who make it through the 16-session program, the Sweet 16 book coming soon. Hallelujah to that too. I thank God in advance for all that he is doing to assure, right, that kingdom marriages remain strong, right? There's a new day coming where we will be able to, within the four walls of the church, be able to talk about these things very openly and very candidly, because people need help and they often don't know where to go to get the help. Dr. Miles Monroe says it best. And he says that kingdom marriages, that's a union between a man and a woman, that kingdom marriages promote strong families, and strong families promote strong communities, and strong communities promote a strong nation. So if the enemy wanted to take down a nation, he would go to the root, right to the middle, the core of a kingdom marriage. And this is why we have to shed light on these issues, sexual issues as well, right? And not just brush it under a rug. There's an answer for your inability to maintain your arousal. There's an answer to your erectile dysfunction that's outside of medical conditions. There's an answer to you feeling like you are completely powerless in the sexual dynamics of your marriage. There are answers. It requires your willingness to be uncomfortable in order to get completely comfortable and beyond comfortable in heightening your intimate experiences with the person that you love. Thank you again so much for tuning in. We have Marjorie Latour. Thank you so much for tuning into the Ask Schellie show. She says, oh, good, I'm able to catch this. It's been a while since I have been able to attend. Thank you so much for your support. Virtual kisses to you, Marjorie. Hi, Martine. She says, hi, I'm late. We'll catch on replay. Make sure you take your notes, honey. Make sure you take notes. We want to make sure that you are experiencing fireworks in your holy union. And Sandy Chambers Collins, my prayer warrior, prayer partner, accountability partner, she says, preach. Somebody has to do it. Somebody has to do it. We have to stop brushing under the rug that infidelity. Okay, we're going to sit you down, leaders, for a while. That's how most pastors address that. We're going to sit you down for a while. We'll put you on a 3-month probation. We're not going to allow you to get into the pulpit. And when those 3 months are up, you will resume your preaching privileges and continue to lead people. But guess what? In the midst of that, all of the psychological and unaddressed emotional injury and that trauma and all of the other things that caused the reasons or promoted that lack of self-discipline or whatever those circumstances were that caused the infidelity remain unaddressed. So when it remains unaddressed, what do you think is happening? It will most likely happen again because change cannot happen outside of a state of awareness. And most of the time, change requires new information, access to new information so we can do it different. So how are we doing it different? Right? And breaking those toxic learned patterns. How do we do it different from our mothers? How do we do it different from our fathers? How do we do it different from those unhealthy caregivers or the caregivers that were in unhealthy unions, right? How do we do it when the examples that we have had our entire lives have been unhealthy? How do we do it when we don't have an example of what happy and healthy love looks like? So these are things that have to be addressed to strengthen kingdom marriages. And I thank God every day that I have the opportunity to tap in as an emotional intelligence expert. So again, for those of you who are tuned in, be sure to click share. Make sure that you go in and share your feedback right in the comments section. And if it's you and you want to see and you want to find out where you and your spouse lands, all you have to do is connect with us on www.askschellie.com to request that survey, or you can email us directly at info@askschellie. I said Ask Schellie. askschellie.com. All right. And so again, this show is about what? Adding wellness tools to our wellness toolbox. Having high emotional intelligence means that you are walking around with a wellness tool that is a wellness toolbox that is overflowing. So when you don't know how to make a decision, you open up your wellness toolbox and say, you know what? I need to do some mindful breathing right now to clear my head. I need to do some tapping in order to prevent this trauma response from manifesting. I need to engage with a positive person that's going to speak life into me so I don't make a fear-driven decision. I need to tap into some healthy support so that I don't continue to self-sabotage. This is what emotional intelligence is about. So make sure that you are intentional about filling your wellness toolbox. All of you are great. I listened to a speech the other day in my quiet time, in my self-motivation time, where I listened to motivational speeches to get me going. And the man of God said that each and every one of us is a Kobe Bryant at something. I think he actually said each and every one of us is a Michael Jordan at something, right? And so Understand that in order to access that very thing that you were purposed to do in excellence, you got to be well in your emotions. How are we going to carry out God's mandate to take dominion in the earth if we are unable to take dominion in our emotions? So make sure you reach out to us, info@askschellie.com, if you feel that you need any additional support. Be sure to submit your questions to info@askschellie.com. And for those of you who are saying, I already submitted my question, I'm still waiting for it to be highlighted, we are going to get to it. We're going to have a show where we just do a marathon of asking questions, so that we can catch up on all the amazing questions that we have gotten over the past several weeks when I was engaging in some much needed self-care. For those of you who would like access to a book that I co-collaborated on, I am a co-author on, you can purchase that book. It's called Struggling to Keep the Vows book at bit.ly/victorious marriages. You can also purchase the book on my website, www.askschellie.com. For those of you who love and enjoy this show, be sure, to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Ask Schellie, where you will have access to videos highlighting all types of questions for the past 2 years. Right? Well, actually, past year, maybe a year and a half. It just doesn't seem like it's been that long. Thank God, right? That's when you're operating in purpose. You lose track of time because you're having so much fun. And it's so fulfilling and so refreshing, right? And replenishing, right? And that you don't even realize the time that has gone by. And so that is the benefit to operating in your purpose. I want to thank you so much for tuning into the Ask Schellie Show. Hi, Bree. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will be live every Tuesday with new content, new questions, your questions. So again, be sure to submit that at www.askschellie.com. Couples, reach out for that survey so you can take control and take just step into a place of power as it relates to the destiny for your marriage. There is help for your concern. There is help for your concern, but it requires a level of vulnerability to allow yourself to get uncomfortable, to get to a space and place of healing. That ends our show today. Again, don't forget to click share on your way out. Till next time, be great in all that you do. And remember, you are a Michael Jordan at something. There is a lane where there is no competition to you or for you. So understand this. Wellness is your superpower, and it gives you full access to being all that God has called you to be. Amen. And see you next week.